I stare out the floor-to-ceiling windows of my corner office on the 32nd floor, watching Seattle's downtown bustle below. The mahogany desk behind me holds awards I have earned, contracts worth millions, and a life I built entirely on my own. My phone buzzes with an unknown number, but the name that appears makes my breath catch. Mom. 3 years of silence, and now she calls. I remember being 8, flour dusting our kitchen counters as we baked chocolate chip cookies together, her laugh filling our tiny Portland apartment. Now I am 32, successful beyond my wildest childhood dreams, yet that little girl inside me still aches for the mother who chose others over me. Why was she calling now after all this time? Before I tell you what happened next, please let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button if you have ever felt abandoned by family, and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming betrayal and finding your own path. Trust me, this story will take you through every emotion possible. Now let me take you back to where it all began. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, life with my mom, Susan, felt like a warm embrace. She worked night shifts as a nurse at the local hospital, which meant our mornings and afternoons belonged entirely to each other. I remember waking up to the smell of pancakes on Saturday mornings, finding her still in her scrubs but smiling as she flipped them perfectly golden. Our small 2-bedroom apartment might not have had much, but it overflowed with love and laughter. Susan would sit with me at our kitchen table every evening, helping me with homework, while classical music played softly from our old radio. She taught me to play piano on the ancient upright she had inherited from her grandmother, its keys slightly yellowed, but still capable of beautiful melodies. When I mastered a new piece, she would clap with genuine pride, telling our neighbors about my accomplishments with a joy that made my chest swell. Money was always tight. I wore hand-me-downs from cousins and shopped at thrift stores, but Susan made it feel like an adventure. She would say we were treasure hunting, and somehow she always found me the most beautiful dresses and sweaters. We would spend Sunday afternoons reading together on our worn couch, her arm around me, as I nestled into her side, completely content with our little world. Then Marcus appeared when I turned 11. Susan met him through a dating app, and their first date stretched into a 4-hour coffee conversation that she described as magical. Marcus was 38, a software engineer with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He had been divorced for 2 years and had custody of his children, Tyler and Emma, every other weekend. Tyler was 9, just 2 years younger than me, and Emma was 7, with pigtails and a gap-toothed grin. During those early months, Marcus seemed wonderful. He brought me books about coding and science, remembering that I loved math and computers. He took Susan and me to Pike's Place Market, buying us fresh flowers and salmon for dinner. When he learned about my piano playing, he sat and listened for hours, applauding every piece with genuine appreciation. I started dreaming about having a complete family with a father figure who would attend school plays and help with science projects. By the end of that year, Marcus had moved into our apartment. The transition felt seamless at first. He helped with groceries, fixed our leaky faucet, and made Susan happier than I had ever seen her. She would hum while cooking, her cheeks flushed with new love, and I felt grateful for this man who brought such joy into our lives. Tyler and Emma began spending weekends with us, and initially, I was thrilled to have siblings. We played board games and watched movies together. Marcus would take all 3 of us to the park, pushing Emma on swings, while Tyler and I climbed on monkey bars. But slowly, subtle changes crept into our dynamic. Tyler needed his own space for homework, so I gave up my desk and started studying in the living room. Emma was afraid of the dark, so she slept in my room while I took the pull-out couch. These seemed like small sacrifices for family harmony, and I willingly made them, believing this was what good big sisters did. Marcus began showing preference for his biological children in ways that felt natural to him, but stung me deeply. Tyler received a new gaming console for his birthday, while I got a book from the discount bin. Emma got name-brand clothes while I continued wearing thrift store finds. When Susan questioned these disparities, Marcus explained that Tyler and Emma had been through a difficult divorce and needed extra attention to feel secure. Susan started changing too. She spent more time preparing special meals that Tyler and Emma liked, researching activities that would help them adjust. Our evening piano sessions became shorter and less frequent. Our Saturday morning pancake tradition ended when Marcus preferred sleeping in on weekends. Gradually, I began feeling like a guest in what used to be our home. High school brought these differences into sharp focus. At 14, I was an honor roll student with dreams of studying computer science in college. My grades were excellent, my teachers praised my potential, and I had started teaching myself programming languages in my spare time. However, my achievements seemed to fade into background noise compared to Tyler and Emma's needs. Marcus enrolled Tyler in expensive guitar lessons, claiming music would help him express his emotions better. When I asked about continuing piano lessons, he explained that money was tight and Tyler's therapy through music was more urgent. Emma joined a competitive dance team that required hundreds of dollars in costumes, travel expenses, and monthly fees. My request for a scientific calculator for advanced math class was denied because Emma needed new dance shoes. Family vacations became particularly painful. Marcus would plan elaborate trips to Disneyland or camping adventures, but somehow there was only budget for Tyler and Emma's expenses. I would stay behind with my grandmother while they created memories I was excluded from. Susan would apologize but explain that family finances required difficult choices, and Tyler and Emma had missed out on so much already. My bedroom became a storage space for Emma's growing collection of dance costumes and Tyler's sports equipment. I was moved to a corner of the basement, which Marcus converted into a makeshift bedroom. The concrete walls felt cold and unwelcoming, nothing like the cozy room where Susan used to read me bedtime stories. When I complained about noise from upstairs disrupting my studying, Marcus suggested I use the garage as a quiet study space. The emotional distance between Susan and me grew wider each month. She would attend every single one of Tyler's guitar recitals and Emma's dance competitions, but missed my academic award ceremony because it conflicted with Emma's dress rehearsal. When I confronted her about the obvious favoritism, she became defensive, insisting that I was imagining problems and needed to be more understanding of our blended family dynamics. At 16, I received early acceptance to the University of Washington with a partial academic scholarship. This achievement represented years of dedication, countless hours of studying, and my dream of becoming a software developer. Instead of celebration, Marcus expressed concern about me leaving family behind. He argued that strong families stayed together and that my departure would be selfish and divisive. Tyler's college fund grew steadily, with monthly contributions from both Marcus and Susan, while my education savings remained empty. Emma had already been promised financial support for whatever college she chose. When I pointed out this disparity, Susan accused me of being jealous and ungrateful for everything Marcus had provided. The conversation ended with her declaring that I needed to mature and understand that family meant sacrifice. My 17th birthday became the breaking point that would change everything forever. The date coincided with Emma's spring piano recital, an event that had been planned for months. I woke that morning expecting some acknowledgement of my special day, but found only a generic card on the kitchen counter. No decorations, no special breakfast, no family gathering to celebrate another year of my life. The entire family dressed up for Emma's recital that evening. Susan wore her nicest dress, Marcus put on a suit, and Tyler even combed his hair neatly. I sat in my regular clothes, watching them prepare for an event that clearly mattered more than my birthday. When I asked if we could celebrate afterward, Susan dismissively said we would do something simple over the weekend. They left me alone in that empty house while they cheered for Emma's performance. I sat on my basement bed, surrounded by boxes and discarded furniture, calling my grandmother through tears. She listened to my heartbreak with the patience only grandmothers possess, promising that someday I would understand my worth beyond this painful situation. When my family returned home glowing with pride over Emma's successful performance, I gathered my courage for one final confrontation. I expressed how abandoned and unimportant their actions made me feel. Instead of understanding, Marcus exploded with anger, declaring that his house worked better when everyone focused on what mattered most. Those words cut deeper than any physical wound. The month after graduation brought Marcus's ultimatum. I could continue living there only if I followed house rules that prioritized Tyler and Emma's needs above my own. College plans were selfish distractions from family obligations. My choices were simple: submit completely or leave permanently. Susan stood beside her husband, her face emotionless, as she delivered the final blow. She needed to protect the family she had now, implying that I was somehow threatening their happiness. That night, I packed my belongings into 3 worn suitcases while my grandmother waited outside to drive me away from the only home I had ever known. Susan's final words still echo in my memory. When you grow up, you will understand. At 18, I already understood more than she realized about love, loyalty, and the pain of being disposable to people who were supposed to protect you forever. My grandmother Sarah lived in a cozy bungalow in Seattle's Wallingford neighborhood, surrounded by gardens she had tended for 40 years. Moving in with her felt like stepping into a sanctuary after years of walking on eggshells. She welcomed me with unconditional love, converting her sewing room into a proper bedroom and insisting that this house was my home for as long as needed. Those first months were a mixture of relief and crushing loneliness. I enrolled at Seattle Central College, working toward transferring to a 4-year university while keeping costs manageable. During the day, I attended classes and studied in the library until closing time. Evenings were spent at Starbucks, where I worked as a barista to pay for school supplies and help with household expenses. The hardest part was the silence from Portland. I sent Susan emails, updating her about my classes, my job, and my plans, hoping to bridge the gap between us. Each message disappeared into a void, never receiving responses or acknowledgement. I called a few times, but she never answered, and eventually her voicemail became full. The rejection felt like losing a limb, painful and disorienting. After my shifts at Starbucks, I would sit in my grandmother's kitchen, learning coding languages through free online courses. JavaScript, Python, HTML, CSS, each new skill felt like building blocks toward a future I was creating entirely on my own. Some nights I cried from exhaustion and loneliness, but my grandmother would make hot chocolate and remind me that every expert was once a beginner. During my second semester at community college, I applied for an internship at a small tech startup downtown. The company, called Innovate Tech, had only 12 employees and operated from a converted warehouse space. When I walked into my interview wearing my only professional outfit, a navy blazer from Goodwill, I was terrified but determined to impress them with my self-taught programming knowledge. Alex Rodriguez, the company founder, was a 35-year-old former Amazon engineer who believed in giving chances to motivated people regardless of their backgrounds. During our interview, he was less interested in my formal education than in the personal projects I had built during late-night coding sessions. I showed him a simple inventory management app I had created for a local bookstore, and his eyes lit up with genuine interest. Starting as an unpaid intern, I threw myself into every task with desperate enthusiasm. I debugged code-tested applications, updated databases, and volunteered for any project that would expand my skills. Alex noticed my dedication and began mentoring me, explaining complex programming concepts during lunch breaks and recommending advanced courses for my continued learning. 8 months into my internship, Alex offered me a full-time position as a junior developer with a starting salary of $45,000 annually. That phone call changed everything. I could afford my own apartment, buy a reliable car, and start building the independent life I had dreamed about during those painful months in Marcus's basement. My first apartment was a tiny studio in Capitol Hill, barely 400 square feet, but it represented freedom and possibility. I furnished it slowly with pieces from thrift stores and online marketplaces, each purchase a celebration of my growing independence. The walls were mine to decorate, the schedule was mine to set, and the future was mine to create. Work became my passion and my refuge. I arrived early, stayed late, and volunteered for challenging projects that other developers avoided. My colleagues appreciated my reliability and problem-solving abilities. Within 2 years, I was promoted to senior developer with responsibility for major client projects and a salary that had doubled since my starting wage. At 22, I decided to take the biggest risk of my professional life. During evenings and weekends, I had been developing a mobile application designed to help small businesses manage customer relationships more effectively. The app combined scheduling, billing, and communication features in an intuitive interface that non-technical users could navigate easily. After months of testing and refinement, I launched the app on both Apple and Google platforms. Within 6 months, it had gained thousands of users and caught the attention of a larger software company looking to expand their small business solutions. They offered to purchase my app for $200,000, more money than I had ever imagined possessing. That acquisition opened doors I never knew existed. Microsoft recruited me for a product manager position, recognizing my unique combination of technical skills and business insight. Moving to such a prestigious company felt surreal considering where I had started just 4 years earlier. My new role involved overseeing teams of developers and designers creating products used by millions of people worldwide. Success followed success in ways that sometimes felt overwhelming. By 25, I was promoted to Director of Product Development, managing multi-million-dollar budgets and leading initiatives that shaped how businesses operated globally. My salary reached 6 figures, allowing me to purchase a sleek condominium overlooking Elliott Bay and drive the Audi I had dreamed about since college. Industry recognition followed my professional achievements. Tech blogs featured articles about my innovative approaches to user experience design. Conference organizers invited me to speak about entrepreneurship and overcoming adversity. Forbes included me in their 30 Under 30 list, describing my journey from abandoned teenager to tech executive as inspirational. At 30, I made another bold decision that would define the next chapter of my career. Using my savings and investor connections, I founded my own fintech startup focused on helping small businesses access affordable loans through innovative risk assessment algorithms. Building a company from scratch challenged every skill I had developed, but the freedom to pursue my vision felt intoxicating. Within 2 years, my company had grown to 50 employees and attracted $25 million in venture capital funding. Industry analysts valued the business at over $50 million, making me wealthy beyond anything I had imagined possible during those lonely nights in my grandmother's kitchen. Yet, despite all this external success, the absence of family connection remained a constant ache in my heart. My grandmother remained my closest relationship, the only family member who celebrated my achievements without reservation. She attended every award ceremony, kept newspaper clippings of my accomplishments, and never missed an opportunity to tell her friends about my latest promotion. Her unconditional pride meant everything, but I still longed for recognition from the mother who had once been my whole world. 3 years had passed since I last heard Susan's voice when my phone displayed her contact information that Tuesday afternoon. I stared at the screen for several rings, my heart racing with a mixture of hope and apprehension. Part of me wanted to ignore the call entirely, protecting myself from potential disappointment. But the little girl inside me, who still remembered baking cookies together, convinced me to answer. "Lana, honey, I have missed you so much," she began, her voice carrying a warmth that transported me back to childhood bedtime stories. "I have been thinking about you constantly and regretting that we lost touch. I saw your article in Forbes and I am so proud of what you have accomplished. You always were destined for greatness." Her words felt simultaneously wonderful and suspicious. After years of silence, this sudden outpouring of affection seemed carefully calculated rather than genuinely spontaneous. I responded cautiously, asking about her life and avoiding commitment to anything beyond polite conversation. She shared updates about Marcus's work, Tyler's college experience, and Emma's recent engagement, painting a picture of family harmony that excluded any mention of my painful departure. "I would love to see you," she continued. "Could we meet for coffee this weekend? There is so much I want to say, so many things I need to explain. I know I made mistakes, and I want to make things right between us." The vulnerability in her voice stirred emotions I had spent years trying to suppress. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a quiet coffee shop in downtown Portland. The drive from Seattle felt like traveling back in time, each familiar landmark triggering memories of my childhood and adolescence. I arrived early, choosing a corner table where I could watch for her arrival while maintaining some sense of control over the situation. Susan walked through the door, looking older than her 55 years. Her brown hair, once lustrous and full, had thinned and grayed considerably. Stress lines etched her face, and her clothes, while clean and presentable, lacked the careful coordination she had once maintained. She spotted me immediately and approached with a hesitant smile that reminded me painfully of happier times. Our initial conversation covered safe topics, my career achievements, her work at the hospital, general observations about how much had changed since we last spoke. She complimented my professional attire and expensive watch, commenting on how successful and confident I appeared. Every few minutes, she would reach across the table as if to touch my hand, but would pull back before making contact. After 30 minutes of careful small talk, Susan's demeanor shifted subtly. Her shoulders sagged slightly, and her smile became more strained. She began sharing information about family difficulties that had developed over recent years. Marcus had been laid off from his engineering position 18 months earlier and was struggling to find comparable employment in a competitive market. Tyler had dropped out of college during his junior year after accumulating $80,000 in student loan debt. Instead of completing his degree, he was working part-time jobs that barely covered his living expenses, while interest continued accumulating on his educational loans. The stress had led to depression and anxiety that required expensive therapy sessions not covered by their health insurance plan. Emma's engagement had resulted in an unexpected pregnancy that brought both joy and financial pressure. Her fiancé worked in retail management with limited benefits, and their combined income was insufficient to cover prenatal care delivery costs and preparation for the baby's arrival. The young couple was living with Susan and Marcus, adding strain to an already overcrowded household. "We are facing the possibility of losing our house," Susan admitted, her voice breaking with emotion. "Marcus has been unemployed so long that we have fallen behind on mortgage payments. The bank has started foreclosure proceedings, and we have 90 days to bring everything current or find a new place to live." As she shared these details, I felt a complex mixture of sympathy and wariness. The family that had once seemed so stable and prioritized over my needs was now experiencing the kind of financial stress that could destroy everything they had built together. Yet I could not forget how easily they had discarded me when my presence became inconvenient. "I know I have no right to ask anything of you," Susan continued, reaching across the table to finally grasp my hand. "But you are the only successful person in our family, and family should help family during times of crisis. You have accomplished so much, built such an amazing life. This amount of money would not even impact your lifestyle, but it would save our entire world." The specific numbers she presented were staggering. Tyler's student loan debt totaled nearly $80,000, with interest penalties adding more each month. Emma's medical expenses, including prenatal care and delivery costs, would require approximately $25,000. Bringing their mortgage current and covering missed payments would cost $150,000. Together, it comes to about $250,000, she said, as if discussing a minor inconvenience rather than $250,000. I know it sounds like a lot, but you are worth so much more than that now. Your company is valued in the millions. This would be like buying an expensive car for you, but it would save our family from complete destruction. The audacity of her request left me speechless. After years of prioritizing Tyler and Emma over me, after choosing Marcus's comfort over my emotional well-being, after throwing me out for not conforming to their family dynamic, she was now asking me to rescue the same people who had made my teenage years miserable. "They are your siblings," she added, employing emotional manipulation tactics that felt both familiar and infuriating. "Blood is thicker than water, and despite everything that happened, we are still family. Tyler asks about you sometimes, wondering how his big sister is doing. Emma talks about wanting her baby to know their Aunt Lana. We all love you and want you back in our lives." I excused myself to use the restroom, needing space to process the enormity of what she was requesting. Looking in the mirror, I saw a successful woman who had built everything through her own determination and sacrifice. I also saw the 18-year-old girl who had cried herself to sleep in a basement bedroom, feeling worthless and unwanted. Returning to the table, I promised to consider her request and give her an answer within a few days. Susan's face lit up with hope and relief, as if my willingness to think about it constituted agreement. She hugged me goodbye, whispering how much she loved me and how proud she was of my success. The embrace felt both comforting and hollow, tainted by the transactional nature of her renewed affection. That night, I lay awake in my luxurious penthouse, staring at the Seattle skyline and wrestling with conflicting emotions. Part of me yearned to be the hero who saved her family, finally earning the love and acceptance I had craved since childhood. Another part of me recognized the manipulative nature of her request and the dangerous precedent it would set for future relationships. I spent the next morning walking through Pike Place Market, remembering the trips Marcus had taken us on during happier times. Those memories felt contaminated now by the knowledge of how temporary his kindness had been. I realized that helping them financially would not heal the emotional wounds they had inflicted or guarantee the loving family relationship I still secretly desired. By evening, I had made my decision. I called Susan and delivered my answer with calm certainty. "I will not be giving you any money. You chose them over me when I needed family support, and I am choosing myself now." Her reaction was immediate and intense. The loving mother persona vanished, replaced by anger and accusations. She called me petty, cruel, and selfish, insisting that I was punishing innocent people for past mistakes. She threatened to tell people about my heartless refusal to help family members in crisis. "I learned to value myself when you taught me I had no value," I replied, feeling a strength I had never possessed during our previous confrontations. "You cannot abandon someone and then expect them to rescue you when it becomes convenient." After hanging up, I blocked her number and social media accounts, protecting myself from further manipulation attempts. The decision felt simultaneously liberating and heartbreaking, finally acknowledging that the mother I remembered from childhood no longer existed if she ever truly had. Over the following months, I began working with a therapist to process the complex emotions surrounding my family relationships. Through counseling, I learned to distinguish between healthy guilt that motivates positive action and toxic guilt designed to manipulate behavior. I discovered that setting boundaries was not cruelty, but rather necessary self-protection. My chosen family grew stronger during this healing process. Close friends, mentor relationships, and meaningful romantic connections provided the emotional support that blood relatives had failed to offer. I established a scholarship fund for disadvantaged students, pursuing technology careers, channeling my resources toward people who would appreciate and benefit from opportunities rather than those who felt entitled to my success. Today, I feel peace with my decision and pride in the life I have built through determination and resilience. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself, even when the world tells you that makes you selfish. Real love does not come with conditions, and real family does not abandon you when you need them most. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between helping family and protecting yourself? What would you have done in my situation? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And do not forget to hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming adversity and finding your own strength. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that choosing yourself is not selfish, but necessary. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that your worth is never determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to treat yourself. Until next time, keep building the life you deserve.